How to set up Git SSH Server and Client on Ubuntu 14.04 LTS. This is a fresh install of Ubuntu. This machine has already been allocated an IP address. If we type in ifconfig-a, we get a list of the IP configurations for all the interface devices. Let's say we want to set the current IP address of the ETH0 interface to be static. This machine has automatically been allocated the address 192.168.1.78. Using the MAC address or hardware address, we could instruct the router to always allocate this machine the same IP address. However, we are going to get the server to set its own static IP address. When setting the IP address, we need to know something called the gateway address. This is the address of your router or DHCP server. To find out what it is, type root-n. Here, next to the destination with zeros, is the gateway address. In this case, it is 192.168.1.254. Perhaps the easiest way to set a static IP address is via the Edit Connection menu. Let's edit the Wireless Connection 1 settings. Here we change the method from DHCP to manual, then we type the IP address, the net mask, which is 255 followed by 0, and finally the gateway. Let's reset those changes as we are going to show an alternative method, and this requires us to edit a configuration file. In the directory etc/network, we will edit the interfaces file. Before changing anything, let's make a backup copy. To edit the file, we can use gedit, but we will use vi. We're going to configure the interface ETH0 and follow the instructions in the Ubuntu documentation. Again, we type in the static IP address that we want, the net mask, and then the gateway. Now save the file and reboot. If you are unlucky enough to see this screen, it's likely you made a small typo. Just check the file over and remove any mistakes and reboot. Let's ping the server from the client. Rather than ping by address, we will edit the host file so that we can ping by name. We will call our server Git Server. On the server, we need to install SSH Server. Type sudo apt-get install OpenSSH-server. We configure the SSH server to accept access by key and not by plain text passwords. In the directory etc/ssh, we edit the file sshd_config. Please do take note of the D. Scroll down to the line containing password authentication. Change the yes to a no and uncomment the line. Save the file and restart SSH Server with sudo restart SSH. We now have our SSH server running, but we need a Git account for our clients to log in with. In the terminal, type sudo adduser git. The clients access the Git account using their key, and all the client public keys are stored on the server in a file called authorized_keys. Let's create that file now. We use chmod here to make sure that only the root user has access rights. Let's make a key on the client to give to the server. And to help us do this, we will use the Git documentation. In the client terminal, type SSH-keygen. cd into the .ssh directory. Then copy the id_rsa.pub file to the server. Let's assume the file was copied to the temp directory on the server and renamed id_rsa.jo.pub. Each new key file is appended to the end of the authorized _keys file, as shown here. On the client, we should now be able to SSH into the Git server. On the client, just type SSH Git at Git Server. On the server, let's now install Git. Type sudo apt-get install Git. To improve security, we will restrict the Git user to Git operations only. To do this, we change the login shell to a Git shell. To find out where the shell is, type which git-shell. This path is then copied to the list of valid login shells. Finally, we change the Git user login shell by typing sudo /ssh git. We can now see that the client cannot log into a command prompt on the server. Let's now create a directory to hold all our Git repos, and create a repo called project-name. The command to create a bare repo is sudo git init-bare. As yet, the Git user cannot access this repo. To make that happen, we change the access rights to the Git directory using chown. And that completes the server configuration. Let's now move on to the client. On the client, we have yet to install Git. Type sudo apt-get install Git. Then configure the Git user's global settings with username, email, and then default editor. All that's left is to create a local Git repo called project-name. We will put our repo in a directory called develop. Type git init to make a local repo. Now let's make some random files and add them to the repo, and then make our first commit. To add the remote Git repo to this local repo, type git remote add origin git at Git Server /opt/git/ the project name, which is project-name.git in this case, and press return. We can now push our changes to the remote Git repo. Finally, let's install Get Gui and use it to push up a change made to the README file. And that completes the setup for Git on the client and the setup for the Git SSH server. Thank you for watching.